Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you're listening. This is Sarah Khumalo, your host on Because It's There. Because It's There is a podcast that comes from a question asked in the 50s of George Mallory. Why climb Everest? And his answer, because it's there. Sounds like a clever answer, but the reality is that I would ask the same question today. Why bother be a leader? Because it's there. Because in spite all our insecurities, what's happening around the world, what's happening with us, what people have said about us, the failures of yesterday, we are leaders. The leaders that the world needs today. If I look at stats, Janine, the world is saying we have the youngest population as Africa. What are we doing to set them up for success, to make sure that the world looks to Africa for leadership? And today I've brought none other than a good friend of mine and an expert in not only reputational management, but authentic leadership. And that is Janine Hills. Janine, welcome to Because It's There.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Finally, I'm on your incredible show that goes worldwide, and well done initiating it. And thank you for the privilege. Not only are you a friend of mine, number one, you're a previous colleague. And thirdly, you are my inspiration. The fact that you climbed Everest is wow. I've been to base camp. And not from a mountaineering point of view, but from a meditation and a walking point of view. But what you've achieved is too incredible for words. And as a woman, Amanda.
Oh, thank you so much. What an honor. Thank you. Coming from you, I really appreciate it. God has been good. Janine, so, authentic leadership is what we're going to touch on, among other things. But before we start, I want to go into Janine Hills, just to break the ice. What do most people not know about you that you're comfortable sharing?
Well, I think most people know most things about me, but there are a couple of little hidden trinklets. I mean, for those that don't know, I'm originally from, I call it Ebai, now it's Kaapberge, and, Port Elizabeth, and in South Africa, and a coastal little city, and born and bred, and then left there at the age of 19. But I had a very tough upbringing, incredibly tough upbringing. And, I had to buy my own little bicycle to get to school because my mom was given a very old little Volkswagen by my father, and the thing kept breaking down. And, I don't know how you can remember, but, as kids, we used to get so embarrassed if our things went wrong with school. And this thing used to always break down in this dip. There was a dip between our suburb and getting to the school. It was 15 kilometers. And we always have to get out of our school, out of this little Volkswagen, push the vehicle through the water to get to school. And I used to be soaking wet by the time I used to get to school. And I was so embarrassed because everybody had driven past and seen. And these were the humiliating things that I had to work through and get through. So when you come through a very poor background, you have a lot more one has to work towards and grow inwardly to be able to lead.
Wow. That is amazing. I actually didn't know that about you. Thank you for sharing. I think it's a testament of the leader you are today that says it doesn't matter where you're coming from. You can get to the top of the world. I know you've been, mingling with people from the UN, from, leaders of countries, businesses. So that is amazing. And thank you for sharing. One more thing, the world is going crazy with the pandemic and everything else that's going on. In the last 2 years, what has changed for you? And because, if you can fill in the blanks, what changed for me in the past 2 years is because.
Yeah, I learned self-love. And it was because I'd been through such horrific pain, and a tremendous loss in my life. And that loss was a multitude of things. And then the pandemic hit on top of that. And it was, I went through a divorce, and that's never easy. And I went through the breakup with the love of my life. And that what I thought was the love of my life, how we go in through these journeys. And then I sold my home, which I had loved, but it was important. I needed to do that. It was a very important part of letting go. The next one was selling my company, which I really loved and loved doing the work I did. But it was a personal decision to do that because it was a transformation journey. So it was letting go as well. Sold that, thought I had money in the bank, hit a Twitter war, gave the company away, wrote off in one tweet 6.5 million rand, and cut that off. So a lot of loss. But in that process, what I learned was self-love. And I think that's far more important than anything else that we can do in any kind of leadership. When you've been there, you can teach.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Your extensive career has spanned across numerous sectors for 3 decades past, might I add. If you look back at everything that you've done, the sectors that you've been, which one was the most intriguing for you? And how different is brand building across the different sectors that you've actually blessed with your presence and expertise?
Each one has got its unique, amazing tools. And it's also great. It's a phenomenal question because the hospitality industry, which I first went into, because I didn't have the blessing of going into university because I was expected to be barefoot and pregnant. So that was what I was expected to do. That's what it was. My upbringing in that era, you were expected to do that. So I didn't want to do that. And so I went and worked for the first and the only multiracial hotel, which was available, which is the Holiday Inn. And everybody knows it down in Khumalo. It's pretty famous and it was quite outlandish at the time. But I learned a tremendous amount about our people and on the ground. So I was a young kid at the age of 18, 19 during that period, what was the most tempestuous time in Khumalo, in Port Elizabeth at the time, during the rousing of the riots. And so I saw a lot. I heard a lot. I learned a lot. And that was a very painful time to see in our country. But I was also able to really understand the activism in me and why, and that feeling within me of what was going on in the country. But the most important thing that you learn in the hospitality sector is patience, grace, and you learn to serve. We're not a serving nation as South Africa. We need to learn that. It's a very important part of our journey. It's actually the greatest gift you can ever give anybody is to serve. So that's the hospitality sector. And it also taught me the grace of being able to walk from a little kid that had nothing to be able to walk into a 5 and a 6-star hotel and have confidence. So how to hold a teacup correctly, how to eat a prawn correctly, it's this kind of confidence that you need in business, so those are the challenges. Then, moving from there into the telcos. I mean, the telcos are fiery, they fast, they're dynamic. But I tell you what, I learned. So I had an amazing boss called Chris Ross, who in fact is currently the CEO of Herotel. And he was ex-Vodacom at the time. And what happened was he took me through a journey, and they hired what they called photocopier salespeople because it was the grade of what needed to happen. And I wasn't that kind of person. So what happened is I realized that I'm a hunter-gatherer. I learn to understand people and then I go in for the sale. And so it's a journey. I'd rather have a 3-year relationship with you and maybe nothing will come from it. But if something does, it will be quality and it will be in depth. And that's more quality, not quantity, quality. And you know what it did? It paid off. In year 3, I became the international quality salesperson of the year. And I was at the time, at the time, I was broken because I never won any of these awards. I used to be in tears. You want to win, and I couldn't understand what was wrong with me. But it was the greatest gift that I gave myself, was to learn through that adversity the difference between quantity and quality. And then moving into banking was very important because it teaches you discipline. Discipline. That's why you're so disciplined, okay? Because financial services teaches you that. Very, very disciplined. And then, of course, it gave me enough discipline to be able to start my own company where I learned about HR, legal, transformation, kind of people management really at the core face, and then selling a business, which is another very, very big journey. Of course, the whole journey of BEE and the integration and the importance in our country. So yeah, quite a diverse sector and learnings that came through that journey.
Absolutely. Lots of experience and lots to pick from every one of them. I think the commonality, though, if I look at the events or the experience that you've shared, is how one remains a leader, irrespective of which sector you're in. That would stand you in good stead. So if we look at South Africa, Janine, as a country, we've got to manage our reputation on a global stage, internally as well as the global stage, more importantly. Who is responsible, in your opinion and based on your experience, for making sure that South Africa's reputation is actually where it is that we want it to be? Is it the citizens? Is it the government? Is it politicians? Who is responsible for making South Africa great from your perspective?
Well, every single one of us have got a role in reputation. Sorry, my apologies. Every single one of us have got a role to play. Yeah. You and I. But the ultimate responsibility sits with Brand South Africa. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of changes in the government, and right now, Brand South Africa doesn't actually have the role, the true role of building the reputation. They actually have more of a PR role, which is unfortunate. They really have to have a role which sits in presidency and a holistic view of assisting the ministers, building the brand and reputation of the country. That currently does not exist. Why? Because people genuinely do not understand the pillars of building a reputation. And I'm not only saying South Africa, I'm saying around the world. Other countries have done better because they've focused on building the brand and not necessarily the reputation. So that's what they have done, and they've done brilliant advertising campaigns. But then when you get to the country, it's a very different thing. If I talk about, like Brand India, for example, the pictures, and when you get to India, is very different. Same thing with Thailand. There's, so there's a disparity. South Africa's advertising is beautiful. It gets us there, but it's also very true. We are a very authentic country. We show you it all. But it does sit with Brand South Africa. But your question's got many legs to it. Every single one of us are breaking down the reputation. Every time we post negatively about our country on our social media platforms, and when we travel internationally and we speak badly of our country. Saray, you traveled, and I've traveled to 56 countries around the world. I love travel. And wherever I've traveled, I've worked. So I've tried to really make it part of my encyclopedia of my journey of growth. What is so interesting is other people, when I speak with people in other countries, they love our country. But they say the South Africans are so negative about their country. So I've just had Mauritians here last month, and they love our country. And the report that came out, in fact, a week ago, that showcased the standard of living within Mauritius is way above South Africa. I was talking to Mauritians, and they said, listen, we live here. South Africa's got a very high standard of living. Yes, we have poverty. Yes, there are issues. Yes, there's things that got to be dealt with. But actually, if you really look at us, you just have to take a drive to Mpumalanga. You have to go through Limpopo. You have to start seeing the growth that is happening. We need to start really saying gratitude, praise, every single one of us. We have incredible weather. We have incredible people. We have incredible opportunity. We have land to grow agriculture. We need to start doing the doing, each and every one of us, and stop waiting for everybody else to do it for us. So we are actually responsible, Saray. So I love your question. Thank you.
No, absolutely. I loved it. As you were speaking, I took myself back to 2019 when I summited Everest. During the rotation, there was an incident where a woman fell into a crevasse. I've actually put it in my book. And when she got out, she was like, oh, it's me, because there was a whole queue waiting for them to remove her from this crevasse. She wasn't injured. And when she stood up and said, it's me, yeah, it's me who fell into the crevasse, it was such a Pretoria accent. And then I was like excited. I'm like, hey, are you from South Africa? She's like, no, I'm ex-Safa. And I thought to myself, okay, and she just went on a queue where there were Nepalese, there were, I think there was a Chinese there, American, Swiss, and she just went on about all the crime in 2 minutes. And I thought to myself, oh my God. And an Irish guy that was there, Noah Hanna, says to me, South Africans are the only ones that clean their dirty linen in public. And it's just crazy. So I love the way you said it's each and every one of us. No one is going to do it for us. This is our home. We need to be proud of it. And we shouldn't wait for anybody to, clean it up and show it off around the world. If it's going wrong, what are you doing about it?
Exactly. It starts with us. Last night, you won't believe it, I watched a movie on Netflix called 83. Please watch it.
Okay.
It's all about India winning the World Cup cricket in 83 at Lord's. And it's all about one man believing in himself, believing in his team, and the country then starting to believe in itself and becoming patriotic. And I didn't know the story. And so it showed me again that what we're talking about now is very real. And I've never come across an ex-South African. This is ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that calls ourselves an ex-anything. I mean, I laugh at that. I used, when I was on the board of Brand South Africa for 3 years, I used to use this example. I said, what is this? When people are talking, even Portuguese or Italians that live in our country are proud to say we're Portuguese or we're Italian. South Africans go and live in London. We've got 500,000 living in London, and they call themselves ex-South Africans. What is this? So we really have issues, okay?
We'll clean it up one person at a time. So thank you for that. I absolutely loved it. Let's go into you. When did you realize that reputation management is really core to your being? It's a gift that you want to give to the world through your companies, through interaction. I mean, it's not just your company. I hike with you, you picking up about reputational management, about authentic leadership. When did you realize that this is your mission, to give to the world? Was it like something that you woke up and said, this is it? Or was it a quiet realization and a process? Take us through that, please.
So it was a bit of a nudge from a couple of people, which was quite interesting. So you have picked up on something which nobody else has really picked up on ever. And thank you for that. And so, yes, it was a journey, because I fell in love with the hospitality industry, but after being in it for 10 years, obviously you work 18 to 20 hours a day. And I realized, you just never have a birthday and you never have a family day off. You just don't. It is what it is. And so for me, I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to learn business. That was the big thing. I realized I wanted to do that. So you have to learn business to be able to identify the risks. So if you're inside the engine, you can then identify the risks. And I kept watching things and looking at my country, seeing things differently. I've always seen things differently, even at school, even in doing my sport. It's watching the people, watching people's behavior, watching the integration of people. So I think it's about care is the one thing. Do you care enough about people, your colleagues, your stakeholders, the people that integrate your clients is very important. I started realizing that I love this a long time ago. We're talking 20, 30 years ago. And I needed to learn the lesson. And a lot of people kept saying, go into your own business. go into your own business. And I said, no. Within myself, I needed to learn the lessons. I needed the discipline. I realized I needed to know enough about legal. I needed to know about accounting. I needed to know how to really do things. And when you do it, you can then really run leadership training. You can be on the other side of the fence. And so it was a journey, but the one person that really, really pushed me into more of the reputation side was Paul Harris. One day when it was at eBucks, it was very interesting when you and I worked together. After I'd been at eBucks for 4 years, we didn't know where I was going to go, and then he came to me and said, "Listen, will you help us turn F&B around?" And at that stage, F&B, as you know, at that particular time, it was a dog of a brand. It really was. It was not the brand that you look at now. And this is where what's so beautiful is what was then, what can be done and built up into a monster of an incredibly powerful, positive brand. And that's the journey that started then. So we're talking 25 years ago. And Paul asked me to please go and head up the communications and turn it around. And I burst into tears. I said to him, "What have I done wrong?" Because I did. You laugh. I burst into tears. And he said, "No. Why are you crying?" And I said, "Well, what's such an insult?" Because he used the word PR to me. And I am not a PR person. And also in those days, and still now, it's perceived as being boobs and balloons kind of thing, where you put pretty pictures up and eventing, but it's disrespected. And that's where we need to start changing that narrative, because it's not disrespectful anyway. There's a very important narrative that comes from. So it was definitely Paul that nudged, and we created what this needs to be. So I actually, with Paul's help, to be very honest with you, Michael's Freedom, Wendy Lucas Bull, other people in the organization that were incredibly supportive throughout the journey. And of course, my dear friend Yvonne Chaka, how we helped resurge that incredible brand was a journey. And that was what was so important, to start cohesive behavior with our people, with the brand, which was lost at the time.
Wow. And it's a very well-known brand now. I mean, if you think innovation, you think F&B. Well done. I mean, I've seen you at work. For those of you that are listening, watch out for this lady. She can turn around. She can make coal into diamond in a moment. Janine, so your journey, so when you climb Everest, as you know, there are these people that are called Sherpas, which is really a name, but it's guides. They don't climb for you, but they support you. They're on your team. But when you get to the top, you take your own selfie, but you know that they are unsung heroes that have been with you on the journey. As I listened to your previous answer, I could tell there's some Sherpas that have pushed you to where you are. You know, can you tell us about one or two of your Sherpas that you want to share? How did you meet them? How did you embrace their counsel, and how did it work for you? And how does it continue to work for you at the moment?
Well, thank you, because we can never, ever do anything alone. In fact, our whole integration, me being on your show, everything is an interconnection between me and you. We never do anything alone. So I can never achieve anything alone. And merely it's about utilizing a skill. And my Sherpa currently is Melissa Girelli. And I laughed when I saw it in your notes. And thank you for that guidance, because Melissa and I met each other at her aunt's house and I watched her. I watched her as a young little Italian. She's Italian. And I watched her, and she was on her social media and very busy. And I thought, this is a little potential employee. You can see, because she's a feisty little thing. She's a hard worker, committed. You can see that loyalty in her. And I brought her into my previous company, and she worked with the head of sales and business development, and ran the academy side and did extremely well for 4 years. And then when the company was sold, unfortunately, they retrenched her. So she went through a very difficult time. And I found out, you won't believe it, through my domestic helper, because you know what happens is everybody else keeps in contact with each other. All the Sherpas keep in contact with each other. And they told me, Melissa, so I went, what? I picked up Melissa. So all my Sherpas were telling me what was going on. And I said, Melissa, pack your bags, come on. You're moving across to me. And it was wonderful to have her working with me, which was an absolute privilege. She hadn't worked for, I think, a couple of months. And it was just wonderful. So she knew my style. She understood my perfectionism. She understood the level at which I work at, because it is different. Reputation management is definitely a new art and skill around the world. It's only 8 years old. Generally, it really is. The professors that I've worked with in the Swiss and German universities, it's definitely a new craft. People still talk about PR, marketing. Meantime, the reputation management is a holistic picture. So yes, Melissa's definitely the Sherpa that I think you and my team have come across, but I have many that I have worked with over the years. My helper at home is my Sherpa. I have a lady called Zandile that is amazing, the Saray, absolutely incredible, from another planet, in fact, that is just so caring. But she is my great support infrastructure. And that's what we've got to start recognizing, is that importance of the support infrastructure around us, which makes us to be great, not good, great.
Absolutely. I love that. I love the recognition of, the fact that no one, if you want to go fast, they say go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And it's important to recognize those shapers around us that support us, and we support them, vice versa. So lovely. I loved that. Janine, before we go further, I would like to just give a moment to our sponsors who make this podcast possible. Okay, let's contextualize Janine Hills. Reputation management, we've talked about it quite a bit. I want to start with that. What is reputation management and how is it different to PR?
So PR, thank you for that. So, PR is a vitally important part, because PR is, it stands for public relations. So public relations is very much what I understand as stakeholder management, as in public relationships. Simple. Okay. And yes, it's kind of eased over to media relationships. Then you've got marketing, which is your branding that we know. There are very few people that pull that whole segment together. And what has started happening with social media is even caused more fragmentation of brands. So you've got public relations, marketing, and social media in companies. And it's actually forcing, sadly, in some companies, I'm not saying all companies, I'm saying some companies, the fragmentation, which causes the crisis situations, because people don't have a holistic view of the brand. And so what I have done over the years to create a true reputation management, I've created 8 pillars that one builds on. And very simply, if I may, am I allowed to take you through very simply? Yes, very simply. So very simply, it's also for you, because every one of us need to know our pillars, because you've got a brand. So let's take Saray's brand. All right, you've got a brand which is Saray and Saray Khumalo, and that's your logo, your website, you're at the bottom of your emails. Everything that you can effectively control is your brand. All right. So if you had a big billboard, which I hope we're going to see on Times Square one day, okay, of course, that's the vision I have for you.
I'm accepting it. I'm taking it all in.
Exactly. So it's a brand that you can control, which is effectively advertising, which is your brand. Okay. Then you've got reputation. So picture a yin and a yang. All right, you've got the brand, and then you've got the other circle, which is the reputation. Now, the other circle is very important, because it's the reputation, which is your crafting of your clients, your messages to your clients, your stakeholders, the financial sector, your investors, the people that say things about you that can make or break you. So it's building of relationships, it's the messaging, it's people that will invest in your company, that if they don't understand your brand and they don't understand how you are unpacking your financials these days are not just about the bottom line. It's about social cohesion, all that, and I'll unpack it quickly for you now. So the key thing is, if you don't build the two together now, moving forward, and especially after what we've been through with the pandemic, you actually most probably will not be around for the next 5 to 10 years, because you're not considering what I'm going to show you now, which is your social cohesion part of that. So that's your brand and reputation side. The next thing that is vitally important, and I think I have shared this with you as well, I think on one of the hikes, where you and I, where you make me perspire. Yes. So I've developed like 8 pillars where you've got to unpack your messages, but in line with consistency throughout the year. So very simply, and this is tried and tested. This is not Janine Hills just going, mwah. This really is tried and tested scientific knowledge. I've worked with professors in Switzerland and in Germany and in universities to craft what will work to build trust, because that's ultimately what it is. I need to trust you to even come on your show. Think about it.
Yes.
If you weren't a person of quality, I wouldn't come on your show. Can you see? It's exactly the same. Same thing with me. If I wasn't a person of quality, you wouldn't want me on your show. So it's about trust. Do you trust me? Do I trust you? Very important. So when we are building a brand and a reputation, very important, we need to know about the management of the quality of the business. Crucial. If we don't have that, if you don't talk about who's behind your business, who's in your business, how do you run your business, people won't know. They just will think it will be like the Virgin Active, where you just have one person. Very risky. You need to showcase the people. Apps has just done it now with the change of all their management. Okay, so they've been through a very long haul of challenges. But what they've now done is they've started unpacking their top team. They've got a strong chairman now, top board, strong executive team. Can you see how the structure is starting to come through? That's about really underlying the management quality. Then the next thing is got to have a strong marketing and sales, whether it's your social media strong, whether it's a development side of things, whether it's, you must have a distribution, marketing and sales distribution. Why? Because distribution is king. I learned that from Eleanor Craig at Vodacom. Bottom line, you can be the first to market, you can have the best products, but if you don't have distribution, you don't have it. So very important. And then you've already just beaten me to it, and you've spoken about innovation. If you don't innovate year after year, even if the smallest, tiniest of things in your company or in your business or in your organization, and talk about it, people won't, you're just going to be same, you know, to talk about time. I love, that's lovely when we travel, same. So we want to differentiate ourselves. So quality products, I mean, we just had to do, I mean, my new business is 1.5 years old. I've already innovated and I've gone online with all our courses, because I've been wanting to do that for a long time, but I know the market needs it. So I know you innovate, and that's crucial, because we need to excite people about brand and what we do all the time. The other thing is we need to showcase the quality of what we do. Very important. Don't be shy. If you do good work, talk about the good work, showcase what you do. If you don't do good work, showcase where you are putting improvements in place, or where you're making improvements and what you're going to be doing. But the key thing is showcase what you do. If it's an airline, talk about the quality of the product. If you don't have a good product, well, maybe you shouldn't be in the marketplace. So the bottom line is have a quality product. The other thing is employee attractiveness. People forget about this. If you have a very good business, talk about it. Why? Because people want to come work for it. If you don't look, why does everybody want to go and work? All the youngsters, I want to work at Google, I want to work at Amazon, why? Because they talk about all these funky happening things and the different way of life. I watched the movie now, What We Work. You know, it was all funky to go and work at WeWork until it crashed. So what I'm saying is, hear that, watch what's attracting this young market. talk about why, but you'll also save fees on recruitment fees. Sorry to the recruiters, I'm just saying, showcase the good things you're doing about retaining your quality of your employment. Very important. So this is the fifth one that we're on to. Sixth one, business performance. Don't be shy to unpack the business performance. If you're doing well, say you're doing well. I'm not asking you to brag. I'm just saying unpack your financials, if it's a financially or listed company, or just saying, yes, we're doing well, but we could be doing better, or this is where we've got a shortfall, but we've got this happening. And so it's about how you say it. You don't have to say, yes, oh no, we're doing exception. No, just be tactful in how you approach it. But the bottom line is highlight that you're doing well. If you're not doing well, remember, you don't have to highlight that, but highlight all the others. So it's not sometimes what you don't say, it's what you do say. And people do listen. People do listen. Then our last two are very integrally linked, and that is our ethical behavior. Because of what's happened and around the world, banking, unfortunately, South Africa's reputation in financial services is very strong, but in Europe, it's not. So you know, our reputations have struggled. Countries' reputations have struggled as well. Leadership has dropped severely around the world. We see what's happened in the UK. We see what's happened in the States in the previous years. And, you know, if you ask me, do you want a green card right now? I'm not so sure I would jump to it. Okay. If you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said, absolutely. Can you see? Leadership determines that. Determines people's decisions and what they're going to do with their journey moving forward. So what I'm saying is your ethical behavior is crucial. How you live your life is vital. If you've got a business, say, if it's a small to medium-sized business, say you run it in line with corporate governance and the way you behave from an ethical point of view. Say it. If you're a listed company or you're a top company, as in a company that's playing in 100 million brackets, say that you're in line with King 4. Unpack these issues. But the most important thing, especially if you're a company, Saray, in Africa, and that is social cohesion. You have to be able to be working with communities. That is our 8th pillar. You have to build everything in line with this because you know you do a lot of this. Giving back is part of building a brand and reputation. If you don't, you are literally just skimming the money off the top and leaving the country, or skimming the top off and putting your back pocket and just going on holidays. No, then you know what? That's when our issues happen, and which we currently have now. So we have to build our society, build the reputation of our country, social cohesion, and then we ultimately build together. Wow. How's that?
That is amazing. You should see how you light up when you talk about reputation management. I'm sitting there like, it's all real stuff. It's stuff that we probably take for granted, but I think listening to you, listing them and why they're important, why they make you as an individual great and a company as a great company is just amazing. And it took me back to growing up as a young girl, where if you do something amazing, like, don't talk about it too much, you know, like, don't be a show off. And this is why I'm very passionate about, you know, one of the campaigns that Nontogo's and team started to say, no apology for my success. I've worked so hard. Why should I apologize for it? You know, I think women do that more than men. And that is just crazy. I absolutely loved how you packed that. And I believe that it's a lot of the people that will come to you for help would benefit in just looking at it in that format. And as you were talking about being ethical, I went back to Ubuntu, something that, you know, if you think about the Chinese, they use with the sticks in eating, chopsticks, you know, and they've made it so fashionable. Everybody wants to sit there and eat with chopsticks. There's a lot of African stuff that we do dare not do in the limelight. We're not making so funky. And I think Ubuntu is one thing that we can export to the rest of the world and make this planet better, because we are Ubuntu experts.
I am, because you are. And that's where it's a genuineness. And you've said two very important things, what you've just said. One thing is that we're quite shy as a nation. And I mean, some people are going to laugh when I say that. We actually are, our culture is very much like that. I remember working with Paul Harris. He said, no, we can't brag about our donations and our foundation. He did. I mean, when I got to first, that's exactly what I dealt with. And I said, well, let me show you what your competition's doing. And I pulled out all the research and showed him what our opposition is doing. We very quickly changed that. Can you see what I'm saying? The market has changed. The reputation is, and that you see, it changes every 5 years. So you've picked up on something very important. Yes, I'm not asking people to brag, but one has to not only depend on one's work, one has to utilize platforms to unpack one's reputation. Why? Because there's so many more platforms that will attack you now. And I've lived through one that was vicious, and I wasn't even involved. It was actually, I had nothing to do with it. It was because my previous company that I'd sold was involved in a situation that actually that managed very well, but it was a political issue. And it is, so you've got to build your reputation for when these attacks come, you have enough bank of goodwill to buffer through those situations. That's the rationale. So please, ma'am, build your buffers, because as you get bigger and your tall poppy syndrome, and as you get higher and higher, these attacks come. You get the trolls, you get the nastiness, you get jealousy. It's going to always happen to all of us. But center oneself, as you know, and rise above it. But build your communication, build your reputation around you, and showcase the good stuff, the genuineness of Ubuntu. And I promise you, you will rise through it.
Absolutely love it. So you are a reputation management, specialist at heart. I mean, even if you you didn't tell anybody, people would pick it up. How do you think organizations have evolved in assessing reputation management in recent years? Has there been any evolution at all? You said it's 8 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's getting there. You know, there's definitely a little bit more strategic. I would say the King 4 has sparked that a bit more, because inside the King 4, it does remind executives and the board to be more conscious of building their reputations. So it has sparked. The understanding at board level is definitely not there. The amount of boards I still speak with, and I'd love to share more, because a lot of chartered accountants, a lot of engineers, and a lot of lawyers, and those fraternities don't engage with this practice very often. So that understanding is not there, and it's not actually often respected. Meantime, they come to it when the pawpaw hits the fan. And I'm saying, please don't do this. Do it the other way around. Prevent the crisis. If you know how to build the reputation, it won't cost you the millions to fix it. So it is a journey we're on. We need to impart skills. So that's why, hence my training in the development side of it, Saray, which I love doing, because I believe that my role now is very much to teach and to share that knowledge internally with corporates, countries, with development, to help build Africa, really, to impart that skill and to impart, I would say, the knowledge, but practically, so that people really grow from it and prevent these crisis situations and putting out fires all the time. It doesn't have to be like that.
That's absolutely interesting. You've actually touched on my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway in a different way. You also touched on the difference between reputational management and PR. I find, having been in corporate, that there's a blurred line between what one is and what the other is. I'd like maybe for you to clarify that for the listeners. And with that, when does the reputational management actually start? You did touch on it, but I want to look at who is responsible for reputation management in an organization. So if you look at an organization like Momentum, like FNB, and so forth, who is responsible? Because you could say for authentic leadership, you are responsible because you are the CEO, the founder, and you do have employees, but you are the face of it. But in a big organization, who is responsible, and when do they start dealing with reputational management?
Well, I suppose, our sponsor as well, our sponsor is Vuma in this instance. They've just been through a buyout as well. They've just bought another company. In fact, they've just bought a large percentage of HeroTel. And so they are growing, so they're managing their reputation. They've got a person that is focused on their marketing, PR, social media, sponsorship, as well as the development. And that person has been in business for a long period of time. She works and reports directly to the CEO and gives updates to the board. She has a very good understanding of the business. And in this instance, both of us know her, strangely enough. It's just weird. We both know her. We've crossed paths, Leanne. And the key thing is, it has to come from the top. That's the big thing. So the board has to understand. So the chairman has to understand. The board needs to understand. The CEO and the executive need to understand. And then you have to have a head of reputation management. That hasn't happened. You've got more head of marketing, which seems to be the role and then under marketing, you've got PR, sponsorship, social media, and other legs that sometimes fit into that sector. I think where it's going to go is you're going to start having reputation management people on boards. I think that's definitely where it's going to start coming, because if I look at the amount of value that I was able to add when I was on Brand South Africa's board, I sat in the Audit and Risk Committee. And given the experience that I had had over the years, like at eBucks, when we were building eBucks and we were building in the engine Vodacom, when you're on the ground, when these are startup companies. I was in Vodacom in the early days of the first 3 months. We didn't even know if we were going to get a salary, we didn't they didn't know if we were going to get paid or not. And these were startups. But the key thing is you learn on the ground how call centers work. You understand how to mitigate risks. So what it teaches you is how to forward plan. And I remember sitting on the board of Brand South Africa, and I was able to make recommendations on the IT reports. I was able to make recommendations on the financial reports. So if you've got the experience and the business know-how, and I know our people have got that experience. When I say our people, I say marketing, communication people have got that experience. Not everybody, but you can definitely go to board level where you can advise. So I think it's going to start taking a shift in the next couple of years. It's going to become one of the big careers, I believe, Saray.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So moving on from reputational management, Janine, I want to go into authentic leadership, something that I know is core to what you do and what you believe. And I certainly believe in leadership of self and leadership of others, through understanding of who we are. It's very easy to be a boss, but it's always interesting to remind ourselves of the leaders that we are and the leaders that are within everybody else around us. What is, the relationship between authentic leadership and reputational management? Is there any at all?
Yeah, there's a very, very, very close lead. Otherwise, when I'd sold the company, I'd been doing reputation management and crisis management, and then teaching that for a fair length of time. It's been 18 years. And I sat back just before the pandemic, in fact. It was a month, and I took off 2 months, and I thought, what am I going to do now? Now what? I'm too young. Well, I can't go climb Everest. I'm a little bit too old for that. My knees won't do it, unfortunately. I wish I had Saray's knees.
No, there is an 83-year-old man that's attempting Everest as we speak. So never.
Wow. Maybe there's a miracle. Maybe I can get new knees. So, what the interesting thing is, if you have walked a journey, I believe you can then teach. And so I sat very quietly. And I think this is the important part about listening to one's consciousness, sitting quietly. And I really did. I sat quietly while we're in lockdown, and I thought, okay, now what? I didn't have an email address. I had nothing. I didn't have a registered company. I had nothing at that stage, and I didn't know what. And the whole brand and the whole feeling of the authentic leadership came to me. It really just came through to me in my meditation and in my just sitting quietly. And they always say, sit quietly and the answers come. And be still within and listen to your consciousness, and it comes. And I believe that we need more authentic leaders. And so I'm not saying I'm the authentic leader, by no means. I have a lot to learn. I've walked the journey. Yes, I've walked in other very large shoes. I've learned from some really great leaders, and we have great leaders in our country. We have, and they're keeping quiet. And we need these lions and lionesses to come out, like you, lioness. So I think in crafting really what is an authentic leader, we talk very comfortably, and I always talk about honesty, integrity, being reliable, being trustworthy, being able to do the doing. So you have to be courageous, right? You have to be the person that's confident in one's skin. One has to be bold. So think about Madiba. Think about Michelle Obama. I think about, yes, we talk about Maya Angelou. These are great spirit leaders. Yes, we talk about the Prime Minister of New Zealand, incredibly courageous and an authentic leader, very real, the Labour Party. I think it's about soul-driven. When you care about the people of the country and you're listening to the youth, you're listening to the young person and saying, this is what I want. I was also young. I'm not that old, Magogo. All right. So I was a feisty young one. All right. But it's about being real, hearing, making some mistakes, being able to apologize, learning from that mistake, not making that mistake again, and moving forward.
Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah.
I love that, Janine, and thank you so much for sharing. When I look at authenticity, it's fast becoming a suitcase word, if I may call it that. What does it actually mean? Because people are just using it appropriately and maybe inappropriately. What gives an authentic leader the edge in the business world today, in your mind?
It's a very, very interesting thing. We kind of, you can hear our tone has now become very serious, all right? Because it is a serious matter, because we have a shortage of authentic leadership, because you can't call yourself an authentic leader. You become an authentic leader. And I think it's something quite auspicious. I really do believe Madiba was one of those. And I don't want this to be corny, but I really do believe that Madiba was one of our greatest, not only spiritual leaders, but one of our greatest leaders. You cannot spend that amount of time in solitude and not come out and be somebody that is completely unique. So in that uniqueness, something drives inside very deeply, where one empties oneself out and the spirit works within. So there's an incredible strength of a knowing that comes through. When you know your stuff, you're not afraid. You're not afraid. Madiba was never afraid of anything. So that's where the courageousness comes in. So it comes from a deep knowing that everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. We're going to walk this journey together. We're going to have some issues. There's going to be some bumps along the way, but we've got some lessons to learn together.
Absolutely. I love that. When I look at your business and chatting to you over time, I know you focus on the C-suite, the board, senior leaders in the public as well as the private sector. Does this mean that they are the custodians of authentic leadership and reputational management in your mind? Are they the people that we should all look to to carry out this authenticity that the world needs as leaders?
No, every single one of us are leaders. I mean, I was a little nkunku, all right, in the hospitality industry, all right, running around causing chaos. But people knew when they came to me, they could trust, we need in our universities, in our heading up our, SRCs. That's where we need our authentic leaders. We need in our townships, in our rural areas, we need our gogos. We need our gogos to lead with dignity and inspire our youth. There's still a lot of pot and lid effect happening in our townships where our gogos, bless their souls, haven't necessarily always seen the most incredible opportunities. So they tell our youngsters, no, you can't achieve that. No, you can't do that. And it is happening. So we want those authentic leaders in our townships and in our rural areas to really, really inspire our youth. So every place you touch, I come across the most wonderful leaders you won't believe in it, whether it's behind the counter in the petrol station or the guy filling up my vehicle. The discussions we have are incredible. And I think we have hidden authentic leaders. They just need the tutoring and the guidance and the inspiration, which we can give through programs like this, because it's free. It's on the social media platforms. It's also in radio, television, and that's where authentic leaders, and that's why I want more of you to be out there. And that's why I say authentic leaders need to share and inspire. Because why? We have people that need to be inspired. They are locked in very difficult, tough situations, and we need to get them out of those tough situations by almost cracking the nut and opening that nut to inspire them to grow like that little tree to inspire them for our nation to grow.
Absolutely. As you were speaking, I was thinking of a friend that says our job as leaders today is to inspire a generation of a limitless generation. Doesn't think the sky is the limit. They can step out the clouds. Janine, it's been amazing. I've got the last question though for you. As somebody that I respect, that I know you are at the top of your game, not just in South Africa, but globally. What have been your best challenges on your journey, and how did you use them, even just one, to propel you forward?
I think it's the balance in life. Walking the Camino was a huge thing for me, because I've always suffered from low self-esteem. And given my background, and I mean an incredibly violent background, and I never felt good about my body. I never felt good about who I was. I was learning, but I never believed in myself. And so that confidence, walking the Camino, the 850-kilometer hike in 32 days, was a monstrous physical feat for me personally. But also what it gave me, Saray, was the meditational time to walk and to pray and to be with myself and to get to know who I was and like who I was. And so when one gets to that stage, I mean, physically, I was incredibly strong. I wanted to walk all the way back. I was ready to do the walk back, to be honest with you. I didn't want to come back, but I had to come and launch eBucks. So I had a deadline that I had to get back for. But that was one of my personal inner shifts that was very meaningful. So thank you for that question. It was very meaningful time for me.
I love it. What I remember the most when you came back is you wore white for some reason, almost every day. And I don't know if you use steps all the time. I mean, everybody was busy, but it was just this white lady going, and the steps you could just hear, like, it's either you coming from behind or Jacques. Go, go, go. Serious, and let's do this. And don't say ebucks.com. It's ebucks. I was like, whoa. But anyway, Janine, this was amazing. I absolutely loved the nuggets that you shared. from reputational management to authentic leadership, but starting from who you are, just what one would say an ordinary South African. But for me, I believe that we are all uniquely extraordinary, and being ordinary is a choice. It's when we try and be something that we are not. Thank you for all the nuggets and for coming onto my platform, for trusting me with your time. I pray that you come back and we do this again, talking about something else, because I know that you are a wealth of knowledge and many can benefit from it. This was because it's there.